Hi, American Lit students. As we move into next week, you are being asked to have a draft ready to share with your classmates on the discussion board, and then to submit your final draft on Blackboard by Sunday. And as a reminder, you do have two options for this. You can either write a traditional literary analysis essay where you're looking at different components of the text and analyzing it for clarity, to reveal something new, a new way to look at the text, whether you're looking at diction or symbols or character development, all of those things are options. And I believe, if I recall back to the people who chose to write literary analysis essays for this last one, I think most of you have a pretty good grasp of what you're doing there. So you can certainly, through this term, write 3 literary analysis essays, but if you did a lit analysis last time and you want to try a multimodal, that's an option for you too. Just as a reminder, everybody has to write at least 1 literary analysis. I wanted to talk a little bit about the multimodal project, and I just want to make some clarifications because I'm seeing some brilliant multimodal projects, some that have excellent images, graphics, uses of the text, clearly have done some pretty deep research and presented it very professionally. And I want to encourage you to think about how you devote your time and energy and research and critical thinking to a multimodal project. The reason that I'm a little hesitant about these is that they're not as clear-cut as a literary analysis. A literary analysis, I've written them for 20 years. I can crank one out pretty fast. I'm able to understand the organizational structure and assess the organizational structure pretty quickly. A multimodal project, by its very definition, breaks all those rules, sits outside the box of what we typically use for literary analyses. It's much more creative, it can be much more inventive, but it also requires the same depth of critical thinking that a literary analysis does. And so if you are choosing to do a multimodal project, I want you to think about how much time would it take you to write a literary analysis essay. And in talking to a coworker of mine, who we both have literature backgrounds, we talked about how, short end of the spectrum might be 4 hours for each of us to write one, depending on page length and what we're studying. Probably more like 6 to 8 hours, and if it's a longer piece, 12 to 20 hours. So if you are doing a lit analysis for a multimodal, consider the amount of time it's taking you and how much energy you're putting into it. And obviously each of us work at different paces. What takes me 40 minutes might take somebody else 20 minutes or 2 hours. So I don't want you to necessarily gauge it on the length of time you put into the project, but I do want you to think about the critical thinking and the research and the development that you put into it. And when I assess a multimodal project, I want to see that thought. I want to be able to see that you had a starting point where you created an idea and you developed it. Maybe you got some feedback from peers, and that you end up with a project that you would be proud to present to a group of people, that you would, if you were asked to stand up in front of a class and walk your classmates or instructors, professors through the project, that you would be proud to show off. So even though you might not be doing that, that's the quality of work that I'd like to see. And I'm going to pop up the rubric if I can find it, and just show you, again, lots of options with this. And from the collages to writing a diary entry to doing the PowerPoint to making a short video, designing pieces of clothing or sets, all of those work. But the areas that I'm looking for to assess are on that rubric on page 3 for this. So clarity and creative process. So when you do put it together, it looks professionally done. It looks like you've spent some time and energy on it. It's free of errors, it's clean, it's presentable. It's connected to the work itself. There is some digging into what your presentation means, what your creation means, how it connects or helps the reader better understand the piece that you're analyzing. And then your paragraph explains the choices that you make. the paragraphs in themselves from all of you were great. It's the actual projects themselves that I want to see a little bit more depth in. And I'm struggling to define what I mean because it is somewhat ambiguous and somewhat abstract. But I guess the best way to say it would be to, yes, think about if you're asked to share your work in a classroom or at a forum. And, think about walking through the halls of seeing somebody at a science fair or, a student conference. People are putting things together that are slick. They look as though they've spent some time and energy putting them together. So think about that for multimodal. I have such a hard time saying that word. And if you want to run an idea by me, please do. I'm happy to give you some insight or thoughts or questions to get you thinking about it. But if you are choosing multimodal, think about how you can, given the resources that you have available, whether it's computer software or craft supplies, how you can best put together that presentation. All right, happy writing, happy editing. If you have questions, let me know. Thanks.